that I'm looking at it, I think Liverpool have got a fantastic side, but I think City, with the depth of the squad that they've got, I think City are just favourites for me.
City are just favourites at the moment for Kev. That's interesting, isn't it?
Interesting in terms of what interesting slash.
Do you make City favourites too?
No, I make Liverpool. I've made Liverpool favourites probably six. Start of the season would have edged towards Manchester City. 6 weeks into the season, I thought, no, I'm edging towards Liverpool, because I had a look at Gomez and Van Dijk, the partnership at centre half, the first month of the season. I thought, that's it. That's the difference right there. Now Gomez has been out for the period of time now, but I'm going to stick with Liverpool. Yeah, I know the strength of Manchester City in depth. They're not going to go away. They're going to hang around, but I still give Liverpool the edge. I just feel, I don't know what it is, just something about the buzz up there, the atmosphere, how the players speak, body language, the whole thing, just more of a feeling, really, sensation that even in the season when you were talking, the players, it was, I know everybody wants to win the league, City want to win the league, but it's almost that desperation, this is it, the players were sensing it, this is their opportunity. And I just feel as if Manchester City, as good as they are, between now and the end of the season, they're capable of having that one game, turning up one weekend, flat. You know, that first half against Huddersfield yesterday, any other team bar Huddersfield, they might be in a bit of trouble. And they've done, I've seen the Champions League when Lyon came first game of the group stage to the Etihad, never turned up. Inexcusable. What's happened there? There's a great Manchester City team, strength and depth, boom, boom, boom. But occasionally, it's just not there. The focus, wherever it is. Liverpool, for me, it's eye to tiger stuff with them this year. You can sense it. I haven't been inside Anfield, but even looking at the camera, hearing the support speak, Klopp, just get a sense of it. The players know they're ready for it. And where I would give them the edge, Liverpool, strength and depth, Manchester City maybe, although I don't think there's much in it. I look at Liverpool's squad at the moment, I don't see where the problem is. Right back, yes, certainly, but Gomez is going to be back fit, I'd imagine 2 to 3 weeks. That will resolve the problem there. No issues anywhere else around the pitch for me. But I think Liverpool, just in terms of that real physicality which they have, you know, that kind of dynamism, that pace, high energy, that real physical edge which they have around the pitch. For me, that is an edge which they have over Manchester City. Manchester City, for all their technical ability, look at the tech, every one of these players can play, some of the combination play, brilliant footballers, yes. But sometimes when they've played against Liverpool, you actually physically look at the two teams, you think, Liverpool got an advantage here, set pieces, etc. But physically,
City just beat them.
What?
Well, City just after beating them in their last meeting.
Yeah, but I'm talking over the course of the season in the English Premier League, that attribute which Liverpool have, for me, it's a factor which gives an advantage over Manchester City.
Before you get into that, can I just ask, who plays right back when Gomez comes back? What's the...
Gomez, if Trent Alexander-Arnold is a fit, and obviously Matip or Lovren will play alongside Van Dijk. Well, that's the answer.
He's fine as right back.
It's not perfect. Oh, Gomez. Yeah, Gomez is fine from a defensive point of view. He's not going to give you as much. He's not going to be as productive.
So they're not just sign a right back now and you're going to win the league.
Gomez's going to be back in 2 or 3 weeks.
At the end of
spend 20 million on a...
Yes, to win the league, yes.
But to win the league, but Gomez is going to be fit in 2 weeks. Alexander-Arnold may be back in 3 weeks. You're bringing other personality. You've spent 20 million, a player coming in expecting to play. He's going to play for 2 games. Then he's going to be out of the team when Alexander's fit. Now he's not happy. Now he's kicking and screaming, causing problems in the dressing room. It's not worth it. These are the things that you have to factor in. It's a tight group. The whole group is together. You've got to be very careful bringing in an individual, another personality into the dressing room at this moment in the season, if you're in Liverpool's position.
I think the way it's kind of lent itself to this title race at the moment, you look at Manchester City, the first team in Europe to cross 102 goals. Second are PSG, to cross 100 goals, I should say. They've got 102. PSG are second with 90. Barcelona on 80. Tottenham with 72. It does set itself up that we've never actually seen a chaser in the Premier League quite like Manchester City, quite like the firepower that they have. It is unprecedented. I just fear, from a Liverpool perspective, that the whole idea of dropping points, and that is acceptable because your chaser is going to drop points, just doesn't lend itself to a legitimate argument this season, because I think Manchester City have come back from their slip potentially in a better shape than they have been at any point in the last 2 years in terms of their explosivity up front.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a fair argument. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Manchester City myself. I don't think they will drop a huge amount of points, but I don't think Liverpool will drop a huge amount of points either. They're 4 points clear at the moment, Liverpool. So for me, they're the clear favourites. Yeah, of course, Manchester City are capable, and they're not going to go away, and it will be a certain ebb and flow. But I still lean towards Liverpool. We don't know how they're going to deal with the tension, the pressure mounts towards the tail end of the season. This group of players haven't been in this situation for, like I say, top of the table. It's tantalisingly close, a league title. You know what that means to everybody, to the football club. Those kind of pressures are going to build between now and the end of the season, and Liverpool are going to handle that. Other teams haven't been able to handle it. You know, there's an argument for teams like Wilton under that type of pressure. My gut feeling, though, is that they can deal with it. This Liverpool team is kind of battle hard enough. There's enough experience in there. I just get a sense as they're actually ready to deal with those kind of challenges that are going to come their way between now and the end of the season.
At some point there'll be a setback when they go out of the Champions League, more than likely. That doesn't matter. They're able to deal with that kind of stuff.
If they actually go out, people will flip that over and say if they were to go out. I know a lot, talking to Liverpool supporters, absolutely delighted they're out of the FA Cup, for example. They got that free weekend. They're going to Dubai for 11 days in preparation of the games coming up, Bayern Munich, and important league games either side of that. Yeah. There's an argument for saying that's a far better position. Of course, other people flip it over. You want to play every game, keep winning games, mentality, that type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting one, but it is fascinating, and it's great to see, because last year I think nobody enjoyed it in terms of procession in Manchester City, and we got a real title race this season. But I'm still leaning towards Liverpool. My gut feeling tells me they have enough.
One of the things we wanted to talk about was this Chelsea performance on Saturday, and Maurizio Sarri's comments afterwards, particularly harsh on his own team. I'm not sure, has he actually looked into what happened at Antonio Conte there, if he's got any designs on any longevity there. Just in case anybody missed it, he was saying that they were far more determined, Arsenal that is, than we were, and I can't accept that. It was similar to Spurs. I spoke to the players and I thought it was solved. I want to talk about tactics, but it would appear this group of players are very difficult to motivate. I think when you see this type of game where one team is more determined, then you can't talk about tactics. Their level of determination was much better than ours throughout the game. In the year 2019, is this a smart thing for a Premier League manager?
Well, that's a different point. No, I don't think it is a smart thing. It's brutal honesty. I think he's spot on in terms of, to a large extent, in terms of what he's saying. But you're absolutely right. To actually come out publicly and give your players that type of criticism, that's you've got to be so careful in terms of the type of dressing room and that Chelsea dressing room has been shown over years to actually just bin the manager off the back of some comments like that. So I'll be interested to see how that's received within the dressing room. But I think he is right in terms of what he's saying. But I think he has to look at himself a little bit, how he's setting up his team in terms of personnel. He's talking about Arsenal having more by getting around, making more tackles, high energies. That's just not acceptable. However, if you play a player like Jorginho as a holding midfield in your football team, don't be surprised if he's not getting around the pitch, making enough tackles and making enough interceptions. That may not be a willingness on his part to do it. It may be an inability because of the individual qualities which he has, because he hasn't got the legs to get around the pitch and make the type of tackles he wants. He's got two players, David Luiz and Alonso, occupying left back and left side of centre half positions, who defensively are average at best and are continually going to cause the team's problems down that side of the pitch. So if he's going to continue to play both of those players in that area of the pitch with someone like Jorginho in front, whose defensive side to his game is poor and doesn't give those players the type of protection that a Kante would, well, don't be surprised if they're going to start continue to suffer these type of results and at times these type of performances between now and the end of the season. Because if he wants to put that right, if he wants a team to get around, make more tackles, physically impose themselves more in the game, take Jorginho out of the team for me. Take him out of the team, but Kante in that deep midfield position. Drop Willian in the middle of the pitch alongside another. And that, for a start, you've got more legs, more dynamism in that engine room of the team. Throw Hazard onto the left-hand side. Wasn't happy with his body language at the weekend. Let him play left of the three where he's more comfortable. Give yourself more of a physical presence high up the pitch. Even with Giroud, was kind of limited. He is in some respects more of a physical presence high up the pitch. So that's how actually he could resolve things in a very short period of time in terms of things that he's talking about. But in terms of mentality, I think he's got a fair argument as well. David Luiz is a huge one for me. I always go back to him. As good a footballing player that he is, I wouldn't like him in my team. I wouldn't be building me team around him. I can't trust him. If he looks to me like a fella doesn't particularly enjoy defending, wants to get on the ball, wants to play forward. Wonderful footballer, great distribution, wonderful range of passing, but at times a very poor defender. Makes poor decisions and he's costing his team.
The one kind of counter-argument to that is the last great moment for Chelsea this season has been that win against Manchester City, when one, David Luiz was brilliant, and two, it seemed that this whole idea that N'Golo Kante couldn't play in a more advanced position was rubbish. From what you're saying there, that was clearly just a false dawn, that David Luiz perhaps isn't exactly what the saviour of the Chelsea season, and Kante does need to regress into a deeper position to get the best out of him.
I understand why he's playing Jorginho there. If you understand how Sarri likes to set his teams up, that holding midfielder, he needs to be his best footballer. He needs to be the one who gets the ball off the back foot, gets on the half turn and gets the team playing forward, good range of pass and very efficient in terms of his distribution of the football. Jorginho's actually better than that at Kante, but unfortunately the problem with Jorginho is he can't defend. He cannot defend, and when they're not dominating possession of the football, Chelsea, they're having to defend in their half the pitch for long periods. They're carrying a passenger in the central area of the pitch, where it's almost vital that you got somebody in there who's got a real acute defensive makeup, and he hasn't got it, and it's costing his team together with the problems behind. So he's got some big issues there. But for me, how he can change it quickly, he's got to change the personnel. But that won't be easy. But by playing Kante in there, he's basically saying. He's basically betraying his own footballing principles by playing a player of the type of Kante ahead of Jorginho in the holding midfield position.
Okay, I just wanted to bring this up. Christophe Gerrard tweeted this. Maurizio Sarri out, Kante as a holding midfielder, Willian out, Alonso should be sold. We should buy world-class players. I didn't realise Christophe Gerrard was a Chelsea fan, by the way, but obviously he is, which is helpful because obviously he's buddies with Eden Hazard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. This is a Belgian journalist. Fact is, Chelsea have spent over 500 million in the last 3 seasons on 20 players. Half of that is spent on players who are on the bench, in the stands, or on loan. And then he has a list of players who he's talking about. Batshuayi, Drinkwater, Zappacosta, Morata, Bakayoko, Emerson, Giroud, Barkley. They all cost some money. That is a lot of money. For a club who are like brilliant at buying young players and then selling them on for profit.
Like, is it the personnel, from what he's saying, that is affecting the effectiveness of Sarri ball? Or is Sarri ball something that should be looked at from his own point of view as something that perhaps isn't the most effective manner of getting results in the Premier League?
Yeah, no, I think your last comment is a good one. I think early in the season, they started off very well, but they were dominating, a lot of games dominate possession of the football. And when they're dominating possession, Jorginho's on the ball and there really be no pressure. He really does catch the eye, although I don't think he hurts teams enough with his passing. But when they've when they've got on the back foot, they've had to defend for longer periods and they haven't been dominating possession of football during certain games, you can see it, they're porous. You can see the limitations of Jorginho in that area of the pitch. David Luiz is getting exposed. He hasn't got the protection that he had with Kante in front of him. Alonso, as good as he is going forward, that was an interesting comment from that fella from Jersey there. As good as he is going forward, and he's got a good record in terms of goal and assists, Alonso. Again, defensively, 1v1 situations, not good. The position sense isn't great at times in terms of giving cover to David Luiz, who needs it. He needs help all over the place, off his left shoulder, his right shoulder, and in front of him, and he's not getting it, and he's making mistakes, and he's going to make more mistakes. So that's the kind of conundrums which he has going forward. I don't think the answer is necessarily on the bench. I don't see too many of those players that you've mentioned necessarily I'll be screaming at to come into the team. Like I said, I'd argue Barkley.
I think he's saying get rid of them, to be honest.
He's actually saying get rid of them.
Well, as in it's a waste of money. We've spent all this money, we've bought these kind of middle tier players that we hope we're going to get an Eden Hazard out of, instead of just like buying 3 players at 100 million who are going to play week in, week out and be world class, which,
Is Higuain one of those players?
I don't know. I mean,
Higuain will come in, but it won't resolve the arguments we've been having in terms of further down the pitch. And I'm not sure about the Higuain. I'm not absolutely convinced of a great goal scorer that he is. The way this Chelsea team actually plays, that's his problem. Morata's a goal scorer, finisher. He's the type of player who needs crosses continually coming into the box, getting down the sides, balls being. He was a great head of the ball, Morata. If you think of all the best goals for Chelsea, good deliveries coming into the box, getting across people, heading goals into the box. Higuain is a similar type of player, feeds off those type of ball, crosses, deliveries into the box. Chelsea, by and large, coming on the inside, little combination play, looking for their 9 to be clever in his link-up play. Higuain isn't that type of player either.
Let's talk about Spurs, because obviously a last-minute goal keeps them whatever faint title hopes they think they might have alive. But the injury to Andy Carroll, there's now an injury to Dele Alli. There's some suggestion that perhaps Troy Parrott might get some action at this stage? Is that possible?
It's possible. I'd be surprised, obviously, with the Ali injury, I'd be surprised maybe he doesn't come into the reckoning in terms of being in the squad, possibly on the bench. The way he sets his teams up, predominantly Pochettino, I mean, he does kind of deviate, but generally it's just with the one orthodox number 9, and with Llorente being fit, I don't see potentially Troy Parrott coming into the team ahead of Llorente. I actually think he gets a bad press, Fernando Llorente. I didn't watch all of the game yesterday. I was kind of on in the background. Somebody saying he didn't play particularly well, but I'm a fan of him. I think he's been harshly treated actually there at Spurs. I thought he's deserved more game time. He hasn't had it. I think he's a very good centre forward, Llorente. Technically good for such a big man. And big target man, great actually ahead of the ball. Anytime he comes off the bench for me, he actually impacts the game for Spurs. So I don't quite understand people. Kane's out of the team. We haven't got another centre forward. There's no strength in depth. There's no ready-made replacement. No, there isn't another Harry Kane. But they've got a replacement, Llorente. Llorente is an orthodox, traditional number 9 and more than capable of playing in that Tottenham team.
I do, and I hate to be ageist here, but I do wonder if having a 33-year-old striker like Fernando Llorente as your backup to Harry Kane is actually the best way of creating a culture of squad depth. That I don't want to say he's like seeing Spurs as some sort of retirement home, because he's had moments here or there, a few moments, like a hat-trick against Tranmere. I'm not sure was that a great moment, but like perhaps kind of even somebody of a different age profile, somebody who's trying to further their career and actually get to the end goal instead of having made all their money, instead of having put down a pretty good career, might be a more effective way of creating a stronger squad mentality. I'm not sure, is that like a ridiculously harsh thing to say about?
No, I take your point in terms of obviously a pathway for younger players, but Pochettino's always done that. I think that's the template down there in terms of people say, why are they going to spend and bringing certain players in? Because you bring all these players in, there's no pathway for these young players to come in and get them out the game time that they need to actually develop. So that's why I give Daniel Levy and Pochettino a huge amount of credit. They don't make these big purchases for the reasons that you're saying, because they open the pathway, opportunities for younger players to come in and get that type of game time. In relation to Llorente, I wouldn't worry about the 33 years of age so much for me. Just at this moment, this is a crucial part of Tottenham season in terms of third in the league, Champions League football next season, in a good position, Dortmund to make it to the quarterfinals Champions League. So they need someone at the moment to come in there and actually perform and link things up for them. And I think Llorente is capable of doing that. I think he can link up play, because that's the way Tottenham like to play. But he also gives them the added dimension when they get down the sides. But any type of delivery into the box, he's an absolute monster in the air. So I'm not saying he's up there in the level of Harry Kane, clearly. But what I'm saying is I don't understand the argument. Harry Kane's out injured or disaster. He's got to go and spend 50 million and to bring it and his centre forward.
2 million on Andy Carroll is the word that they're going to spend, which seems like the most Spurs transfer that you could possibly imagine at the moment.
There's a huge gamble there just in terms of Carroll's injury record, but I think if you were to park that in terms of his injury record, I think that's fair. I can understand the logic of it in terms of the outlay wages, bringing somebody paying him a year, somebody who's not going to expect to play every single game.
Is that a problem though, not expecting to play? That's my point about Llorente, is that he's just happy to be on the bench. Is that really the sort of squad
not happy,
you want?
But he accepts it. No, you're wrong in saying he's happy to be on the bench. Nobody's happy to be on the bench, but he'll accept it. He's a good professional.
Is that good enough for any?
Well, it has to. Well, that's a better situation than having a player spending 50 million. As some people would say, should be spending 50 million, bringing the player in now, paying him 200 grand a week. When Harry Kane's back fit in a month's time, this 50 million pound player now earning 200,000 pound a week is now going to be on the bench, and he's not going to be happy, and he's going to be kicking and screaming because there's going to be a high profile player with a big kind of personality, big profile, and he's not going to be happy. He's got a huge amount of ructions in the dressing room. So yeah, you are better with a player like Llorente, who isn't going to be happy playing. He's going to expect every game, and when he isn't, he's going to have the right type of attitude. He's going to train well. He's going to contribute to the dressing room. He isn't going to cause a problem, and he's going to be ready when he's asked if there is an injury to those players we're talking about Kane for this small period of time. He's going to be ready to step in and play his part. That is absolutely huge, and yes, that is the type of player that you want.
Is Troy Parrott good enough to play for this team at the moment? Is it too soon in his development?
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of him recently. I mean, obviously I'm just reading like everybody else and talking to people and hearing about him, the impression that he's making, but that's a decision the manager has to make. I'm sure he's watching him play. He's been in and around the first team, so that's a call for the manager to make. You know, in terms of the young kids, personally, from what I'm here, confident young lad. Physically, looks as if he's able to deal with it. Confidence must be at a high level in terms of the impact he's made at the club, the goals that he's scored for the under 23. So it'd be great to see him get a bit of a game time, but it'd be a huge leap of faith from the manager to put him in at this stage of the season. But it'd be great to see it.
We were speaking about number 9s there. One of the number 9s, obviously, who's been the star of the last month has been Marcus Rashford. And Danny Murphy was saying on Match of the Day on Saturday that that's it, job done. He's your number 9 for Manchester United. No way Lukaku can get back into this team. Do you see it even further than that? Because I think there's a potential that you look at Marcus Rashford in his current form, and it's like that's a number 9 for the next decade for Manchester United potentially.
Yeah, but I don't think this is off the back. I mean, Rashford came into the team as a centre forward when he first made his debut.
Yeah.
Remember the Europa League, coming in scoring a couple of goals, I think, on his debut, playing down the middle. So this is a lad who's been groomed and developed as a natural. He is a centre forward. He's been pushed out to play left of a 3, which I can understand initially coming into the team, a huge amount of responsibility playing down the middle. Better to maybe learn the game, get that bit of game understanding, develop as a player playing left of a 3. A little bit easier to play the game from the side, having looking at all the game on your inside. I can understand that to a point, but what surprised me is that he hasn't well, under Mourinho, that he hadn't got the confidence in the player to throw him back into that central position. Again, talking the player down, talking about his limitations, maybe lacking in terms of mental strength, the whole thing, not just Rashford, a number of players. So that was why Mourinho, to a large extent, was shown the door. But he's always had those attributes on to play down the middle. Different type of player to Lukaku. I can understand to a certain extent maybe why Mourinho went with Lukaku, because United's insisting on going from back to front as early as they did. Ideally looking for a player with a little bit of physical strength who can actually pin centre halves, make things stick and play from there. Rashford's a different type of player, not as physically imposing as Lukaku. Always wants to be on the move, playing off the shoulder. So if you're playing a different type of game, maybe playing through the thirds a little bit and looking to play down the sides and maybe play a little bit more combination play, well, he's more than capable of doing that, as he's shown Rashford. I mean, he's phenomenal. I've been a huge fan from an early age, and like everybody else, I've been disappointed to see he hasn't been introduced in that central area of the pitch. But I think you're right, particularly if he goes with a 1, like a 4-3-3, plays an orthodox number 9. I think he's got the jersey at the moment. You could make an argument if he flipped and went to a 2 at any stage. Maybe you could make an argument with Lukaku there. But it looks to me as if he's almost made the decision, Solskjaer, in terms of Lingard, Martial and Rashford, the attributes that they have in terms of mobility, their technical levels, their ability to kind of combination play. He values that ahead of those kind of physical attributes which Lukaku brings to the team. He feels if the team functions a little bit better with those 3 players, regardless of the system, like split centre forwards, which they played against Tottenham, or an orthodox 3, which they played at the weekend. He seems to Solskjaer favour those players, with the likes of Pogba now occupying a position higher up the pitch, which you needed to do before. The combination play between those players in particular seems to be working. The balance is right. They're gelling well. I think Lukaku, he feels, hasn't got those individual abilities to kind of complement that type of football that he wants to play. So
He's a superstar.
No, he is.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal, and if you take a step back, you look at his stat. I mean, 150 games for United at the weekend?
I was just trying to check the exact stats there. It's like he's played 164 games, including UEFA Youth League, FA Youth Cup and Under 21 Premier League. So it's like 150 senior games, basically.
International caps as well as phenomenal goals. You're right, he's an absolute, for his age, you just have to take a step back. We're so used to seeing him play now. We're so familiar with him. But actually take a step back, and how old is he again? How many
21.
games is he playing?
Yeah.
And look at those kind of, the way he's carrying himself. I never understood what I wouldn't forgive Mourinho for. I never understood the criticisms of Rashford in terms of those little insinuations, and I hate that in terms of mentality. There was always that. In terms of, you could talk about physical attributes and football was what he certainly hasn't had, not the strongest, this and that. But that little insinuation, he's not quite. There was always that. And I looked at that young fella and I thought, I'm seeing the opposite. I'm seeing the young fella who's getting this criticism off probably one of the best managers in the world, playing at a club like Manchester with all those pressures. He's getting that type of criticism. He's taking it. He's taking it on board. Never saw him go to a newspaper. Never heard him whinge. Just get on with his game. Constantly pick himself up, getting knocked back, particularly by your own manager, and keep producing these type of performances no matter where he was asked to play. That indicates to me this is a player with like huge mental strength, and a player who actually had the type of personality to actually to dominate at this football club for years to come. So I never understood that.
Yeah.